Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Run. I'm Egberto Will is your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. Welcome aboard, Michael Rudnin, AVQ, Demetrio G. We actually had no damage in Kingwood, Texas. That we are on the section that we are in. We are west enough of where the damage was. We expected to get quite a bit, but we kind of lucked out. And when I say we lucked out, I really mean that we lucked out, Michael Rudnin. So thank you so kindly for asking, because it could have been rough if it had gone through here. Oh, Senora Brige MCP, I get 3 to 4 hours of sleep every day, and I try to get my exercise in 5 times a week because of, we're not getting any younger anymore. So it seems like I may have to reduce my bike riding. I get up early in the morning to ride the bike. I do about I guess about 15, 16 miles 5 days a week. I think I'm going to cut that down to 3 times a week because it's kind of taxing my system now. But yeah, I do sleep every so often. It's so often necessary to sleep. But guess what, folks? Guess what's in? Mira lo que recibí hoy. Look at what I got today. We've been shipping it directly from Amazon and directly from people have been getting it both in the book form and in the ebook from Amazon. Well, I got the ones that I can ship. So all those of you who have ordered from me directly, which means you went to politicsdoneright.com /store, so that, because when they ship you this book, I make very, very little of it. I mean, very little. Probably, I don't know, a couple bucks or so. When I ship it myself, I make a few more bucks than that on each book. So thank you guys for supporting it. You can also, like I said, you can now get the book at politicsandright.com /store. And I'm going to ship all of those today. The ones that I'm not going to be able to ship all, but I'm trying to ship most of them today that came in over the last few days. Anyhow, we're going to have a great show. We have a full show today. What is the show going to be about? I think I better start telling you what the show is going to be about. Let me put it on the screen. Title of the show: Indy Journalist Scary Tale on Protests. Kamala skewers Trump then and now, and Meacham speaks. Pretty good things happening today, folks. Please, before we do anything, please go ahead and share the program. I ask you so kindly. Please share the program on your screen. Please share the program on your wall, your Twitter, your Tumblr, your todo, your everything. Why do we need that? That is how we're going to get the message out. We have a great interview today. We do indie media here. We're independent media. And I was recommended by another one of our contributors. Said, hey, check this guy out. He's another independent media guy as well. You need to talk to him. And I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and see who this guy is. Wow, let me just go ahead and let's get busy, play him, and then we'll come back. We also have Kamala Harris. There's a piece of Kamala Harris that I want to go ahead and play. So we'll do that, about 10 minutes of Kamala's speech. I kind of cut it up and really reduced it so that I can just give you guys the meat. Anyhow, let's go ahead and start with Senor Michael Nigro, and then we'll continue. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. I'm here with the one and only Michael Nigro. Listen, remember all those videos and pictures and all of that you see all over the place. Michael Nigro is an award-winning filmmaker, 6-time Emmy-nominated writer, director, and multimedia journalist based in Brooklyn, New York. His penchant for breaking news and social justice movements has put him at the forefront of some of the most crucial stories of our times, including, My Love, Occupy Wall Street, Standing Rock, the 2016 presidential election, Charlottesville, covering the immigration crisis in multiple locations in Mexico, the Yellow Vest movement in France, the ongoing protests in Hong Kong. I could go on and on and on, but I don't want to leave him there just staring at the camera. Michael Nigro, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm great, and I'm staring at you, Alberto. Nice to meet you.
Hey, good man. Hey, look, you have a storied record, brother. Tell me a little bit about yourself. I kind of just gave a little synopsis. Why don't you tell folks who you are? Because you are the kind of journalist that really is in the, what is the word that I want to say? That is out there in the field. Talk a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes right back to Occupy. I had been working in film and TV and documentaries for quite some time, and that was really where, um, reality TV kind of erupted on the scene, and it was garbage. And then Occupy exploded, and I just was working on this one show, and I would just the second night of Occupy, it was a nighttime. I said, I'm got to check it out. I went down there, and it really changed my career path. I began to just stay and record and video and take stills, and began to write about it simply because what was happening and what I was witnessing on the ground there wasn't what was being reported. And that's where I really took off.
I want to stop you right there because that is the thing that I preach about on my show all of the times about the mainstream media. These guys stay apart. They never tell the story. I had some folks in Portland telling a different story than what we were hearing on TV. So folks, this is what we're talking about most of the times. Continue, please, Michael, because that is such an important point.
Well, when money gets involved in creating the news and you're seeing it through a corporate lens, it gets skewed on both sides. And what I and other number of journalists have become this kind of, I don't want to say we're a collective, but we've found each other out in the field. We found each other in Charlottesville, and we had to, protect each other and had each other's backs as much as we could. Same thing goes in Hong Kong. Same thing goes when you are out in the field covering movements. And it just turns out to be the kind of news that I want to report and discover. And also, I can go to Standing Rock. And the story I always tell of Standing Rock, on the last days, you had the governor say, if you wanted to cover the last days of Standing Rock, you have to sign a document and you have to adhere to our rules. CNN, Fox, all the big networks said, okay, we sign, and they got put up away from the camp. I didn't want to report that because if you kowtow to these kind of edicts, you're not reporting the news. You are a mouthpiece for the people who are telling you what you can report. So we stayed in the camp. We reported on the inside and try to give the real story, on both sides of it. I was, inside that camp, I was looking out at a militarized police force that was, it kind of felt cinematic that they were just going to steamroll over everybody. And there were very few cameras. All the other big buses and the vans and the big cameras, they couldn't even see what was going on in there. And so that's the kind of news, actions that I really want to report on.
Now, let me ask you that because one of the drawbacks with working the way you work is funding. You have to eat, you have to stay alive, you have to find air flights to different parts of the world and what you do. How do you get to generate your income for doing this very important work?
We all have our different ways, our different tactics. Some people have, GoFundMe. Some people are working for news rooms. I've gone from several different newsrooms. I worked for BuzzFeed News for a while, where I helped head up and develop their live stream division. So they were able to have some funding and get me out there. But for the most part, it's self-funded. And I file photos to different news desks and news agencies, and then those get picked up and get disseminated across the world. I've worked for other publications who have been able to send me out on these things. I mean, it's a hustle. And then on top of that, I still do, to support myself and to support this kind of work, I work in film and TV still. There are other journalists that are out there that, I don't know how they do it, but they do it. And it is not for everybody. It can be very, very dangerous. And even more so now with what is happening in the White House.
I think it's so important because, when we talk about, I am a social justice, economic justice, criminal justice type of independent, run an independent show here. And one of the things that concerned me a lot is, with folks like you on the outside, the only way you can do your job is if you are somehow not necessarily secure. I'm talking about physically, but secure in the totality, your health care, What happens when you get sick? What happened about with your wife, your girlfriend, your whatever it is that you have? How do you maintain? You have to have a life. So that is a. I mean, first of all, I consider you guys out there in the field my heroes because no, I'm just saying. We can sit here behind all these screens and controls and all of that, but you guys are out there with getting you are in the middle of the stuff that's happening. Tell me what's the biggest project you're working on right now?
Well, right now, there's so much going on.
Right.
And amongst a lot of the photojournalists right now, we're really prepping as to what is going to be happening in the streets because it's not going to stop in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
And what we are seeing is almost a collaboration with far right groups and city police forces. You saw that in Kenosha, you see it in Portland, where they are literally letting the far right and extremist groups take over the streets. And what that has been teaching a lot on both sides now is that if you come armed to the teeth, you are not going to be bothered by the police. So now we have left-wing groups that are arming themselves, Second Amendment, and then you also have right-wing groups have been coming armed to the teeth, as we saw in Charlottesville, as we were seeing in Kenosha, and as we're seeing in Portland. What I have taken to doing most recently, and one of the reasons why is because I did have COVID, and I am still recovering from that. And it has been a long haul for me to get through this, but it is about the First Amendment and what they are doing with press badges here in New York City, and what is considered your First Amendment right. In New York City, the police issue press badges. Now that's really bizarre.
Are you serious?
I am absolutely serious, and it's been going on for years. And no one's been able to get it out of their hands. They decide who is a journalist and who is not. There's many different nuances to this, but what it has become is this badge that they can take away and snatch at any time off of your neck. It's become a license to be a journalist, a license to the First Amendment. So if they take it away, they're not allowed to do that. It's in the Constitution. So I've been formulating with a group of photojournalists, reporters, lawyers, filmmakers, professors, to wrest the ability, the credentialing process from the NYPD. It is probably going to have to go through legal channels, but we have gotten a lot of pushback from the NYPD because why do they do that? It's completely to control the narrative, as I said that they did in Standing Rock, as I'm saying that they're doing in Portland. We need to be able to cover these and be able to cross police lines and report on the news, not being told what we can and cannot report to.
That is sad. I don't see how it is that do you know when that happened, or has it always been that way, or?
It has been, I actually don't know when that happened. Back in the 40s, I do know that there was all these police badges or press badges that were being bandied about. The NYPD came in and said, let's just issue our own. And then it just slowly chipped away to what you could and could not do. It's an effective form of censorship of the press. Now, being a frontline journalist, going into hot spots around the world, it's honored. I have press all over me, my helmet, my badge. I did in Hong Kong, and it was honored. In New York City and in other cities now, they see it, it becomes a target, and it's a way to control the press and censor the press. In Hong Kong now, would I go there with a badge that said press on it? No, it's changed in a matter of like 3 months. Now I would not go in there, and I would not say that I'm press because I don't know if I'd get out.
Yeah, well, exactly, because China now is converting all the laws that govern the free press, etc. Now, that is a shame. Now, it's going to be an interesting election this year. we're going to probably have a whole lot of Trump's minions at voting booths throughout the country, likely more in areas where there's a lot of minority, black and brown folks voting. Do you have, or the for the journalists, do they have a plan to cover all these areas, an organized plan so that it will be pretty much covered in its entirety? Are they grouping together?
No, there's no real like playbook here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no one can predict where these hot spots are going to flare up. Who knew Kenosha?
Mm-hmm. Why
Portland,
Kenosha? Yeah.
Portland has been a hot spot for quite some time because of the right wing and the Proud Boys and Patriot Prayer that come there and have been basically backed and protected by the police. Even though it is considered kind of this, keep Portland weird type of place,
Well, it's Oregon. Oregon has history.
Yeah, so that has been going on for quite some time. And I have a number of frontline journalists that are there that are worried about, can they get into the voting booths? What is going to happen? I cannot predict that. I'm not even sure what I'm going to do come November 3rd, except I know that I'll vote and then I'll figure out where I'm going to cover this.
Now, I don't know if you saw the videos from Kenosha where the killer, Ridamore or whatever his name is, he walked right past 3 or 4 police vehicles with an AR-15. Nobody ever considered stopping him at all. What you thought about that?
I've covered a number of Second Amendment rallies. The most recent one was in Richmond, Virginia, where I think you had close to 30,000 men and women walking around with long guns. I mean, massive guns, 50 calibers, AR-15s, handguns.
50 caliber guns?
Oh yeah, it was, and you want to know what you didn't see there? Police. And this is what I'll go back to again. This is what is the lesson that is being taught is you come armed like this, that you are stoking those kinds of, I guess, clashes. And you're seeing that on the left now as well. So that it hasn't happened earlier, I'm shocked. Meaning just one trigger goes off, one person does that, like it has a potential to be a bloodbath. Watching more and more of those videos of Kyle Rittenhouse and a number of these militia or people who are taking the side of law enforcement saying that we are going to protect, we're helping you protect, and then having a Kenosha police officer on video saying, we are going to take these Black Lives Matter protesters and we're just going to kind of corral them towards you.
I heard that. I saw when the guy said that. I didn't hear when the cops told him that. Did you have a video where the cops actually told him that as well?
Yes, I actually saw that video, and it is verified that the cops said, yes, we're going to put them towards you, and then you do whatever you want to them, end quote. And that is part and parcel of what has been happening in Portland.
Okay, Michael, let me stop you there because the fact that we have that information and the fact that that isn't the headline of national news, that a police department told right-wingers that they will send, I mean, that is national news.
Apparently not. Apparently it's not. You have, during the RNC, the two, the husband and wife who had brandished guns,
yes,
being paraded on Trump's stage, essentially giving license to somebody like Kyle Rittenhouse to walk around and parade guns and point guns and murder 2 people. He became an active shooter, and you had other people that tackled him and died in the process of trying to disarm him. What does he do? He walks right to the police. I mean, that's my perception of it. I wasn't there, but I've watched many, many videos.
I've seen the videos. That perception is pretty damn accurate. Now, I mean, I just want to kind of just inform you that right here in Texas, we had a left-winger, well, I don't call him a left-winger, a Black Lives Matter person walking with a long gun, and some right-wingers came in a car and claimed that he pointed the gun at them. They blew him away, killed him right here in Austin, Texas. I mean, I'm in Houston. That occurred in Austin, Texas. And guess what happened to the guy? They released him from jail.
Yep. It's happening everywhere.
We are Trump has brought in a new form. I mean, has taken the right wing. Well, actually, what he's done is given license to the right wing. They've always, I mean, from the Obama days, they pointed out that these guys were terrorists. And now Trump is saying, well, they are my terrorists, so they're okay.
Yeah, I think that's completely accurate. And I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon. I think that we're going into this election with him stoking fear, talking about how if Biden gets in, that there will be no more suburbs, that there's such a divide that is happening, and it feels intentional. It feels that they are enjoying the chaos.
Well,
enjoying the chaos.
Well, a spokesperson went on Fox News and said the more chaos there is, it's much better for Donald Trump. What's her name? She's leaving the administration now, Kellyanne Conway.
Conway, yes, that is true.
Yeah, but anyhow, so I mean, look, the work that you do, we first of all, we need to stay informed with what you do. How are you feeling now? How long have you had COVID?
So I had it in March.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm technically termed a long hauler now, which I just have residuals after it's not in my system anymore, but I have residual effects of my lung and other things that are going on. So I am a part of a Mount Sinai research and study, which I'm really happy to be in, because nobody still knows how this goes. Nobody has any answers for anything. So it's just a matter of time as I go through these battery of tests. To figure out how I can get better and how I can be, back on the streets again.
No, so you can't do any field work right now, pretty much, or are you too tired, or?
No, not at all. I go out when I can. I was out in New York City during the George Floyd protests and the curfew, which was insanity. Mm-hmm. And I've not seen any kind of violence like that against protesters and journalists ever like that. Even during Occupy, where I watched them, just pummel us. This was a coordinated effort, and this is one of the reasons why the NYPD press credential must get out of the NYPD's hands.
Well, Michael Nigro, it's been my pleasure to speak to you. I hope to hear a lot more from you. Thank you so kindly for having been here with Politics Done Right. Your work is necessary more now than ever.
Egberto, thank you so much. Anytime.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed that. That was Michael Nigro. The next one I want to play is, I went ahead and cut up the speech, the pre-Trump speech given by Kamala Harris, Senator Kamala Harris, because she made some very important points that I think we have to hammer into the heads of people, because a lot of times with all the rhetoric that Trump uses, and in this attempt to really keep people from really hitting the true message, a lot of people don't understand how Trump works. Let me explain a few things about Trump. Every day there's a new tweet. Every day there's something that creates a controversy. These are all false controversies, and their intent is to take you off message. And what I hope, and based on how I see Kamala and Biden working, is they are ignoring the everyday silly tweet that amounts to nothing, and start talking to issues that affects not Democrats, not Republicans, but all Americans. This pandemic doesn't know whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or otherwise. The only thing this pandemic knows is that it'll kill you. It'll kill you. It'll maim you. And if you take a look at Michael Nigro, the guy that I just had on, he had it since March. He's still recovering because they don't understand why he's not fully functional, why he's still tired. I mean, he goes out there in the field with his camera, his mics, and he does his thing, but he's still ill. And when people talk about, oh, it's just the flu, it's not just the flu. And it's a disservice to tell anybody, whoever you are, whatever ideological spectrum or field you're from, that somehow this thing is just the flu. It hurts. Now, yesterday we had a super spreader event called the Republican National Convention and in the White House, at the White House, outside. Oh, it's outside, so nobody wear masks, they're within spitting distances from each other. In other words, sitting next to each other. You know what that means, right? We are about to see another spreader event because all those folks that flew in from around the country to stay at the Trump Hotel and then go to the White House, they're taking all that crap right back to their communities now. So we'll follow it and we'll see what happens. But anyhow, take a listen to this from Kamala. What I did is I cut it out. I took out a lot of the spaces to reduce it down to about 10 minutes or so for the important parts. Check it out.
We must also confront another crisis, the pandemic that has torn apart so many lives. The numbers that define this crisis are staggering. We cannot look the other way or allow ourselves to become numb to them. Nearly 6 million confirmed cases of the coronavirus, 180,000 lives lost, more than 50 million claims for unemployment this year alone. We need to see and we need to hear what is happening in our country. The quiet desperation that has taken over so many lives in America. The family packing into their car at 5 o'clock in the morning, hoping the local food bank still has something left when they get to the front of the line. The 50-year-old store manager who's been laid off and knows he can't pay the rent on the first of the month. The mothers and fathers stretched to the breaking point, working from home while helping their kids with their online classes, just trying to hold it all together. The small business owners, economic engines of our communities who are shutting their doors every day. The nurse getting ready for her afternoon shift, who has seen so much suffering and death in recent months and wonders how much more can she bear to witness. The family grieving the loss of their grandmother, who's been in a nursing home and who they couldn't even visit over the last 3 months of her life. The alarming and disproportionate rate at which Black, Latino, and Indigenous families are contracting and dying of COVID-19. That is the reality of America right now. A reality completely absent from this week's Republican National Convention. Donald Trump doesn't understand the presidency. He thinks it's all about him. Well, it's not. It's about you. It's about all of us, the people. As a lawyer and advocate, when I would rise to speak in a courtroom, I'd say the following words: Kamala Harris, for the people. And that is why I stand today to speak for the people. Because we know the truth. Donald Trump has failed at the most basic and important job of a president of the United States. He failed to protect the American people. Plain and simple. Trump showed that we in the legal profession would call a reckless disregard for the well-being of the American people. A reckless disregard for the danger a pandemic would pose to American lives, for the devastation it would do to our economy, for the damage it would do to communities of color who have been subjected to structural racism for generations, for the chaos that would upend our daily lives, make it impossible for many of our children to go to school, make it impossible to live normally and with a sense of certainty. Here's the thing. Donald Trump's incompetence is nothing new. That has always been on full display. But in January of this year, it became deadly. That's when the threat of a virus that it would endanger the world first emerged. Trump dismissed the threat, but Joe Biden sound the alarm. It would be the beginning of a pattern that persists to this day. Trump telling us not to worry, that the virus will, quote, disappear, that a, quote, miracle is coming. Joe Biden saying we need a plan, a national strategy, a president who is willing to lead, willing to be a role model for our nation, for our children. Trump still doesn't have a plan. He still doesn't have a plan. Joe Biden released his first plan in March. And here's what you have to understand about the nature of a pandemic. It's relentless. You can't stop it with a tweet. You can't create a distraction and hope it'll go away. It doesn't go away. By its nature, a pandemic is unforgiving. If you get it wrong at the beginning, the consequences are catastrophic, and it's very hard to catch up. You don't get a second chance at getting it right. Well, President Trump, he got it wrong from the beginning, and then he got it wrong again and again. And the consequences have been catastrophic. And here's why Trump has been so unwilling and unable to deal with this crisis. First, he was fixated on the stock market over fixing the problem. He tweeted about it consistently during this period. He was convinced that if his administration focused on this virus, it would hurt the market and hurt his chances of being reelected. That mattered to him more than saving American lives. Second, right at the moment that we needed Donald Trump to be tough on the Chinese government, he caved. On January 24th, he praised the transparency of the Chinese government. He said, quote, China has been working hard to contain the coronavirus. The United States greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency. It will all work out well. But they weren't being transparent. They blocked public health inspectors from our CDC from getting access and information that they needed to protect American lives. Donald Trump stood idly by. And folks, it was a deadly decision. Instead of rising to meet the most difficult moment of his presidency, Donald Trump froze. He was scared, and he was petty and vindictive. On a call with governors across the country on March 16th, he told them it wasn't his job to get personal protective equipment to frontline workers. He said, quote, respirators, ventilators, all of the equipment, try getting it yourselves, unquote. On that day, we had about 5,000 cases as a nation. Today, we have nearly 6 million. Even now, some 8 months into this crisis, Donald Trump still won't take responsibility. He still won't act. And the tragedy in all of this is it didn't have to be this bad. Just look around. It's not like this in the rest of the world. All we needed, guys, all we needed was a competent president. As it continues, he's making it worse every day. Just this week, the Social Security Administration said a cut to Social Security, like the one Trump is proposing, would end disability benefits within 1 year and end all benefits within 3 years. So let me be as clear as possible. If Donald Trump's extreme proposal goes into effect, the checks that American seniors are relying on, that you rely on to pay your bills, to buy your medicine, to live, will stop coming. The very people who have suffered so greatly in this crisis, it's unthinkable. And in the middle of a health crisis made worse by his own actions, Donald Trump is in court right now trying to throw out the entire Affordable Care Act, including the protections it provides for people with pre-existing conditions. So that means if you are fortunate, enough to survive COVID-19, insurers could deny you coverage for treating any long-term effects. He's not changing. The president he has been is the president he will be. But we have a chance to right these wrongs and put America on a better path forward. One where the leaders we elect listen to the experts and follow the best medical guidance to keep us and our families healthy and safe. One where we take meaningful action against systems and traditions of oppression. One where we stop fanning the flames of hate and division and treat one another with the respect and the dignity that each one of us deserves.
All right, I hope you like that. Now, she's made some very important, very, very important points. Let me go ahead and let you know one important thing, folks. This is very, very important. I tell you what, I have a piece to play by Meacham. I'm going to hold back a second. Let me just go ahead and do my little quick promo here, and then I'll go into Meacham, and then I'll answer some very important notes that you guys have in the thing there, because they're very important. First of all, folks, the book that you see on the screen, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. That is my new book. Please go ahead and get that. By getting that book, you'll I have some techniques that have really worked. And, you know, we brought folks over. We brought folks, not turn anybody into Democrats. That's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to get people to vote their own interests and make sure when they go out there to vote that they're going to say, they're going to think about the things that you're going to discuss with them respectfully, humbly, and civilly. So please go ahead and consider getting my book. I have the link up there, but you can always get the go to politicsdoneright.com and go to our books link to get the book as well, or just go to amazon.com and find look up my name, Egberto Willies, and my several of my books will pop up, including this one. By the way, was a #1 seller in one of the groups for 3 days in a row. Please go ahead and get it. The book is It's Worth It. It's Worth It. Please go ahead and get it. The name of the book is It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. The reviews are very good on the book as well. And like I said, it's been #1 at Amazon in one of those things for a couple of 3 days actually. Please go ahead and subscribe. We need subscribers. How do you subscribe? You can subscribe to Politics Done Right by going to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. That is politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. You can actually help us as well at PayPal by going to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. We're now taking subscriptions on Facebook as well. Oops, I didn't get the PayPal out. There's the PayPal. On politicsdoneright.com/Facebook, politicsdoneright.com/Facebook if you want to join via Facebook. And as well, you can shop for our books, our teacups, our T-shirts, our everything at politicsdoneright.com store. And guess what we have in-house? We now have the books. So if you purchase the book directly from our store at politicsdoneright.com/store, I'll actually autograph the book for you. And we sell other books as well. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, and for my weight loss troubles that I've had. But anyhow, please consider becoming subscribers as well. We do need subscribers. By the way, subscribers who subscribes at $4.99 or higher actually can read all of our books online at our egbertowillies.com site. You can read all our books online at egbertowillies.com for those of you who are subscribers via Patreon. Subscribers via Patreon. That is politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Thank you so kindly. All right, let me play Meacham first, okay? Because Meacham has a very interesting piece that he did today. It's sort of the march on Lincoln is on in Washington D.C. right now, and he had some prescient words, and I couldn't help but cut it up and do it. So check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
The statistics tell the story. The fact that folks have to go back to the Lincoln Memorial 57 years to the day after Dr. King and John Lewis and Bayard Rustin and A. Philip Randolph and others had organized that march, which, by the way, things weren't easy then. The reason it was supposed to be a march on the Capitol. And President Kennedy thought that Congress would react poorly if the folks showed up and faced them, so he encouraged them to go to the Lincoln Memorial. When John Lewis spoke, they were so concerned that he was going to be too radical and too revolutionary that the Kennedy administration had two people inside the Lincoln Memorial ready to cut the microphone and play Mahalia Jackson singing "He's Got the Whole World in His Hands" over the loudspeakers. So this has been a perennial and difficult struggle. And the lesson of the first march on Washington in 1963 is that Dr. King set out the ideal, and John Lewis told the story about how the students of America, as they are again now, were trying to bring the ideal into reality. And so having a president who refuses to acknowledge the plain facts of the matter about structural racism and the prevalence of injustice is a central stumbling block. We need a president who sees the world as it is and can lead us to a place where we want it to be. White Washington, 57 years ago today, was expecting a riot. Russell Baker, the New York Times then correspondent, told me the story once that he had, the Times had chartered a helicopter for him because they wanted to be able to hover over the violence to report on it. And when he got in the helicopter and flew over the mall, it was so boring that he actually had him fly over his house to check the roof, and then he landed and came and actually covered it in the way it's being covered today. So white expectations and white fears take up too much of our mind space. It takes up too much of our public space. And I think it's more than a conversation. I hate that phrase about a national conversation. We're beyond conversation. There has to be recognition of reality, and then the work of reconciliation. And we're being led to that by these very brave voices of protesters who are reminding us that America is not supposed to be for just one group, but for everybody.
Absolutely. So America is not for one group. America is supposed to be for everybody. One of the things that I love about Jon Meacham is that he's very pragmatic. He's very humble, and in the statements that he makes, he takes a helicopter look. He doesn't look at it from who he is. He look at it from the point of view of what's occurring, what has occurred, like the perfect historian is supposed to be. Anyhow, let's move on. I said I was going to go ahead and answer these questions next, but since I'm at 45, I want to play something that is rather funny first, and then I'll come and answer. So I kind of had a little deviation here. Check this out.
They keep on speaking about violence happening in this country as if it's happening under Joe Biden, that Joe Biden is the president. In fact, we compared what Trump said at the 2016 convention and what he had to say last night. Watch this.
Our convention occurs at a moment of crisis for our nation.
We can never have a situation where things are going on as they are today.
The recent images of violence in our streets.
There is violence and danger in the streets.
Many have witnessed this violence.
Violence we have seen in Democrat-run cities.
The crime and violence that today afflicts our nation will soon,
We must never allow mob rule.
and I mean very soon,
We can never allow mob rule.
come to an end.
This problem could easily be fixed if they wanted to.
Beginning on January 20th of 2017, safety will be restored.
Oh, you mean those things were 2017? Oh, wow. So you can see the president is really full of it. A lot of the violence that occurs today He is the genesis of those issues because of issues unresolved and because of the things that he pushed. Okay, let me go ahead and start talking to my brothers and sisters here, all of them. Okay, let's see. Charlie Lindahl says NBA says voting in arenas. Fantastic news. Yes, I know. Even in here in Toyota Center, they are going to be voting, Mr. Charlie Lindahl. Daniel Ledo, the president is exempt from the Hatch Act. The president is exempt from the Hatch Act, but the people who work for the president, they are not exempt from the Hatch. So as they participated yesterday on the field in the White House, they could be placed under, they are violating the Hatch Act. And I can go from person to person to person that shows that violation. They use the technicality to get around it by doing the videos for the ceremony, for the naturalization ceremony and other things before, and then throwing it on a website, and then the other section pulled it out from the website and used it for the video. That's how they got around a technicality kind of a way that they did. But yesterday was a full, entire violation of the Hatch Act by every single one of the secretaries that were there, by every single government official that was there at that function at the White House. Hatch Act violated. Read it. All right, let's see. Let's see what's going on here. Paul Fleming says, we have a president that cares nothing about the law. Just read the Hatch Act. We all definitely know that he cares nothing about the law for some time. But there's a message that Paul Fleming says, Mike, I don't understand why you come. No, I don't know which one you're talking about. But let's see. Go to another one. Dimitri says, it says people know that Dems are full of. Oh, I get the message. It's the previous message. With how horribly Trump has mishandled and has failed Americans. The fact that he still can win says that, what does it say about confidence in Democrats? I mean, that is true. I can't argue with that, right? But it also tells you that we as a people, we as a society, we have work to do. The Powell Manifesto, the Powell Memo, you guys hear me talk about it all the time. The intent was to blur reality from fallacies in America. And it has worked. They infiltrated the church, the schools, everything. That is why it is not as simple to say, oh, well, you know, that climate change is real, right? You can't say that anymore because what happens is, well, there's half of one, some science. No, science is science is science. Read the Powell Manifesto at egbertowillies.com. And the reason why I'm saying that is after people started to become more intelligent, they had to do something. And the dumbification of America, the first thing they did was took civics out of school. Why did they take civics out of school? They don't want you to know your rights. They don't want you to know how government really works. Because then people are going to start realizing that they've been had. And they needed you to change your vision of what capitalism really does. They didn't want you to realize, they didn't want you to know that in a capitalist structure that, oh, the only thing that matters is capital. You doubt me? Ask anybody for any policy that gets passed. What's the first question? How does it affect business? Which means, how does it affect capital? Always remember that. Let's see. Okay, Kamala Harris can empathize the struggles of the people, and she can she can offer some pretty words, but she's not barely offered a damn thing in all that. The only part that makes it barely is the mention of Biden's plan to deal with the pandemic. Yeah. Let me tell you one thing though, Michael Rudnin, my brother. I don't want her or Biden to start making promises of what they're going to do. Because I already know I don't want it done the way they're going to want to promote it in order to keep centrists on board. So I want them to win. And then I want you, Michael Rudnin, and everybody else here, Daniel Ledo, and Lee Grant, and Norman Reynolds, and everybody else here, work like hell to get the policies that we really want. The policies that we really want. Because the policies that we really want, it's not policies that either Trump or Biden are actually talking about. All the policies they talk about always think in a neoliberal manner. They're both neoliberals, okay? We just have to pick the neoliberal that actually has a heart. That is what it's all about. So let's see. Let's see what else here. I think some messages just came in replying. The only truth Trump spoke was how the Democrats cheated Bernie in 2016 and how they cheated him in 2020. Bernie always gets cheated because, again, it's a system. If you want to, and you know what, I'm not even gonna go ahead and cry about it. I want to tell everybody something here. For all of my left-wing liberals, left-wing progressives, socialist Democrats, all these folks, let me tell you something. If we want to go out there and lead, if we want to go out there and run the nation, and I want you to listen to this very well, because I've had to come to the realization myself. We have to not only take it, we have to be able to convince and talk to people where they are at, not to look at them and say, oh, you're stupid if you don't believe what I am saying. When I explain, Medicare for all is so simple and makes a lot of sense to me. But the Powell Manifesto has created an alternate reasoning, an alternate way of thinking that makes a Daniel Ledo think otherwise. Because that's what they've done. So my goal isn't to just say, oh, you're stupid for not being able to see that if you have a third party involved in paying a bill, it absolutely costs more because that third party is involved and those shareholders have to get paid and all of that. And when you have a single payer system, all those costs are gone. They've created alternate things to tell these people that, oh, but by the way, if you do it that way, if you have a third party in there, they'll put in some efficiencies. But the efficiencies can never be greater than what you are given in shareholders and executives and duplicate stuff. So it makes no sense. But you have to be able to put it in a manner that these people convince, because somebody else did the job for you. Somebody else went ahead and changed the way their brains were wired. So you have to rewire it. And you don't rewire it by saying, what's wrong with you? Or you have to get them on board. And that's what we are working on. All of us here, that's what we're working on. Getting them all on board. And by the way, let me do another shameless plug. Go ahead and get my book. It's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors, because while you're not going to convince all of them, you're going to convince a lot of them, because they're going to start looking at their interests, especially in these times when people are doing so badly. Remember, I always say that depression will not be televised. You watch TV right now and it looks like everything is okay. You don't see people in a depressive state like they were back in the 20s, in the 30s. You know why? Because what's going on is we hide the pain. We hide the pain. And what we have to do is, one, expose the pain so that every American out there that is in pain can see they're not alone, and then give that solution as an option and saying, what if we do? People have to get out of their different silos. And that's what I try to do. I am a left-wing, progressive, liberal, democratic socialist. That's who I am. We live in a country full of people who believe they're capitalists, not realizing that capitalists are only approximately 0.1% to 1% of this population, and everybody else are really slaves to the system. Gradated, of course. Some of them are made very happy by their salaries, and they think by having that they're doing very well, and then altogether 20% keep the other 80% in bondage. And it's not a bondage of chains, right? It's a bondage of the mind, a bondage of having to spend all your disposable income to exist, the bondage of not being able to have much, even though the country can afford it. But when you've learned that that's the best you can do, or when you learn that is your state, you don't change. And one of the things I try to preach, and I intend to preach continuously on our show, is I believe in absolutely everybody that's listening to me right now, everybody that's in this room, left wing, right wing, whatever. The funny thing about it is, bottom line, Daniel Ledo wants the same thing as Dimitri OG and Michael Rodnin. You know, they can fight and they can talk and they can say all these things. But bottom line, and I'm telling you this isn't even to question for me. Bottom line, if you go into the hearts of these people, you actually see that. And that's why I don't listen to the superficiality of the arguments. And I get into a little bit of the discussions or whatever, but I never make the discussion take away the person's humanity if they are not leaders of the evil movement. In other words, I will get personal with Mr. Trump. I will get personal with all those evil politicians that have really misled those people right now that vote against their own interests. I will. But to my brothers and sisters, the regular folks that are around, do you think if I am bad, if I am rough with these folks, then they would have won. Then the plutocracy would have won, because they would have kept the division in such a manner that we can never attack and beat them. And that's why folks call me names. Don't matter to me. You call me a name today and tomorrow we break bread. Because I understand how the system works. And the system is intent of having us at each other's throats. And if we are at each other's throats, guess what happens then? What happens then is that they win. And we want a moral, egalitarian society where everybody has equal access to success. I mean, if you want to be a bum, you can be a bum. But if you want to be a success, you have equal access to reap it. Brothers and sisters, this is the end of the show. My name, one more time, I need to put the link of the book again. Folks, go get my book. I need to sell a lot of these books. You know why? Because that is what's going to keep this program going along with your subscriptions. Also, please, my brothers and my sisters, you can buy me a couple of coffee. When I say me, I'm talking Politics Done Right. There is the link. politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Support the program. Be a part of it. And by the way, any one of you, I hope you guys know this. If any one of you want to be interviewed, want to be online, want to talk, whatever, please let me know, because I'd love to hear your story, and I'd love to have you tell your story in your voice and picture on us, with us, to the rest of our community. And lastly, when you guys are ready to have sort of a rundown Zoom call, let me know, because I want to do that. But the last time I did it, a lot of you weren't interested in it. But if you ever want to have a Zoom call where we can really battle it out in a very civil manner, let's do it. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! I'm Egberto Willies, host of Politics Done Right, an independent news program. I post several news videos of interest every day. I ask you so kindly to subscribe to my channel, and please leave me some comments. Thank you very much.